Oh, these pork chops, they ain't burnt. They're blackened. Delicious. Let's see how we put it together. This is part 3 of my spice series. I'm going to show you how to make a blackening rub right off the bat. I decided to make my own blackening rub because anytime I went out and bought something at the store that was just made, I just picked it off the shelf. When I started looking at the ingredients and paying more attention to what goes into what chemicals, what ingredients are going into the foods that I eat, I realized that I was eating a whole lot of added sugar or unnecessary chemicals that I just didn't want in my diet. And blackening seasons were no different. They typically included either regular sugar, brown sugar, maybe some form of molasses, and a whole host of other versions of sugar that go by 50 different chemical names. So I made the decision to actually start making my own seasonings at that point. So I'm going to make a blackening rub. And my ingredients that I'm using today are going to be a sweet Hungarian paprika. I'm using sea salt. I'm using onion powder, garlic powder, thyme, and I'm using 3 peppers. I'm using ground black pepper, ground white pepper, and a cayenne pepper. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and mix this all together. Real easy. And all the ingredients and the quantities will be listed below the video. So I'll go ahead and start with the paprika, then some sea salt. Just all the seasonings you just throw in all together. Thyme, and then my peppers. And then you just mix them. And what I love about this bowl, it's a bigger bowl than I would use, but it's got a handle so I can mix it better. I'm just using a whisk and just making sure all the ingredients get mixed up. You want to make sure nothing at the bottom is sort of clumped together, which is in a way why I liked using glass bowls, because if you can see, it's all mixed up rather than having any type of spices at the bottom. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull out just what I need. This makes about 25 tablespoons in a serving size, or excuse me, 25 servings. A serving size is half a tablespoon. So with that, I'm going to pull out about 1.5 tablespoons for my pork chops. So be right back. All right, I'm going to show you 2 ways that I apply the rub. Just whatever you like, float your boat. I do both ways. One is a dry rub, and the other way I make a paste. So first I'm going to do a dry rub, and I'm going to do that with 2 of the pork chops. I'm using bone-in cut pork chops, and I tried to make sure I got pretty fatty cut. You want to make sure there's some fat on the pork chops. They can be pretty dry otherwise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just start putting the seasoning on these 2 pork chops. And you just rub it in. That's all you do. And I want to rub it in on all sides. You want to be generous with the rub too. That's the other thing. Because you really want to, it almost creates a crust on, it does. It creates, the seasoning creates a crust. And you want to flip them, and all this stuff right here, you want to use all of that up. Nothing goes to waste when you're using a rub. So want it on the sides. So these 2 are all set and ready to go into my skillet. This one, for this particular pork chop, let me get these out of the way, I'm going to make an actual rub for it instead. And what I'm first going to do is, because I got porky hands, I'm going to wash my hands, and then I'm going to come back and show you what types of fats I use with the rub. Okay, I'm going to make my paste. What I typically use for this is either ghee, because it's soft, it's at room temperature, unlike butter, which gets hard, and if you put it, you have to melt the butter, and when you put it on the meat, it sort of gets a little hard. Not great. And then the other one I use is just regular olive oil. I use the olive oil that you can use for cooking, not extra virgin olive oil. That's really meant for eating. So what I'm going to do is, I have olive oil here. I'm just going to pour it into a little bit in there, and then just mix it up in there. And I'm just making a paste. That's all I'm doing. I want a little liquidy to it, little liquidiness. And there's my paste. Very simple, very easy. And then that's gonna go all over the pork, all over the cut of meat. The nice thing about this rub too, just so you know, is that it's not just for pork. I use it for poultry, specifically chicken, more chicken than anything else, but also fish. It's really good for fish. See, it goes on nice and thick, which I love. And then I'm gonna put this over here. Now I'm really gonna get in here and get all of this. And again, anything that goes on your board, you're gonna put back on your meat. Nothing gets wasted. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna go ahead and take this over to my skillet next. What I'm doing is I'm heating up the lard that's in my skillet right now to cook in. I'm gonna turn my fan up really high because this is gonna get really, really hot, and because of the rub, it's a blackening rub, it's gonna get very smoky. So you wanna make sure you have good ventilation for this. If you need to open up a window or two, that's fine. So this is getting hot, as you can see. I'm gonna go ahead, you can hear the sizzle, which is what I want, and I'm adding in the pork chops. I'm gonna cook these. The thicker your cut obviously dictates how long you cook these. The temptation is to move them around. You're not gonna move them. You let them cook. For thin cuts of pork chops, you usually go about 3 to 4 minutes. For the thicker cuts, like I have, it's gonna be up to 5, maybe even 6 minutes before I flip them. So it's gonna be on the stove for about 10 to 15 minutes roughly, and then I'll have some deliciousness. So, okay, as you can see, it is super smoky, like it's supposed to be. That's what a blackening rub does. I'm gonna start flipping them over now. They're about at the halfway point. So let me do the first piece. Beautiful. That's exactly what I want. I got the rub in there really nice and dark. Although I would have liked it a little bit more over here, but it might be just because the pan is a bit crowded with the 3 big cuts. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish flipping the rest of them. About 8 to 10 minutes for the pork chops to be done. They look blackened like they're supposed to. Looks like a little burnt, but that is the seasoning. That is not the meat. I pull them off. They're done at about 145 degrees. You can pull them off a little bit sooner than that because the meat's still gonna cook while they're resting. You always wanna make sure the pork chops rest for about 5 to 10 minutes before you actually serve them. But smell delicious all throughout the cooking. Don't panic when you see all that smoke. It's not burning. It is the spice that is darkening. That's what's really important to understand. You don't move your pork chops when they're on the skillet cooking with that blackening seasoning. For these guys, we're going to enjoy ourselves a nice lunch with a little bit of spinach and drizzled with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Very tasty, very healthy, and very low carb. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. Go ahead, give us a thumbs up, and let me know if you're going to try this or if you have your own seasoning that you like to use with pork chops. I'd be curious to see what you guys put together as well. So until next time, I'm going to sit down and have myself a very delicious and healthy lunch, and I'll see ya.